Hello, and welcome to the North South podcast with myself, Andrew, and my co-host, Dave.
Hi,
Dave. We've got a special episode. So, obviously, as we discussed in the last episode, we wanted to start bringing some guests onto the podcast. And in typical me and Dave style, we didn't just want to make this some like fucking ego fest or some tit off the internet. We want it to be authentic and to bring people on that we actually like, people we think have got expertise in certain topics. So we'd like to welcome our first guest, Ed Hanson. Obviously, Ed is a strength and conditioning coach. He's a black belt in Jiu Jitsu as well. Do you want to give us your professional rundown, Ed? What is it you do? What is it you don't do, I guess?
Yeah, so I'll start with the Jiu Jitsu side as the Jiu Jitsu podcast. So I run Jiu Jitsu Perform. So it's just like yourselves, online S&C services for grapplers, both hobbyists and competitive grapplers as well. But alongside that, my full-time job is an S&C coach in football. So I work for Burnley Football Club with the academy as the lead S&C. So just balancing the two right now alongside two very very difficult kids. Have you already
Perfect.
Have you seen this morning already?
Yeah, so obviously Ed, unlike me and Dave, Ed has a proper strength conditioning job. He's a proper man. He's grown up.
Say proper. It doesn't necessarily mean you're good. There are a lot of
yeah.
I'm glad you said that because that's what we tell ourselves, so that
Yeah, it just makes ourselves feel better.
You are 100%. You'd be 100% right. I promise you. There are some S&Cs I've come across that I would not trust you to work under me if I was ahead. Yeah.
But I think obviously what we want to do with these episodes is we want to have like a general topic, something that we can all obviously go back and forth in. And obviously, as Ed's just mentioned, his background in professional sports, but obviously it's something that you put a lot of emphasis on with your jiu-jitsu clients and grappling clients, is this idea of scheduling.
Yep.
And obviously the impact that can have on performance markers and results, whatever it is, from whether it's like a professional level or down to a hobbyist, I guess, level. So that's probably a good place to start. So I guess we'll start with a question. In terms of jiu-jitsu, is there such thing as an ideal schedule, would you say? What do we have to consider when we're looking at schedules, when we're dealing with a client? What is it that factors into your decision making, and how much impact do we or you or we all think that it can have?
I think for anyone, especially when you're looking at hobbyists, but like the main thing you're looking at are just circumstances and just getting everything to fit around that. I think, I don't know what it's like with you guys, but I find especially with people who are relatively new, they take this kind of all-in approach and they go full pelt and just they're training every day. S&C, everything changes, diet changes. Like there's so much changes in such a short space of time. And especially when you consider jiu-jitsu's, it's a unique sport. It's not like going for a run or playing paddle, which is really popular all of a sudden.
That's not sport.
Yeah, I've never played it, so I couldn't even tell you. But saying that, I reckon I'd be terrible at it, and giving like my ankle are absolute pieces right now. Like I said, it places like quite a unique stress on the body that many people like won't be used to, and so often I see people, they'll go through maybe a year, 2 years of going all in, and then those injuries start kind of like start showing up, especially the really awkward like neck injuries, elbows, like knees. They start to rear their head. So I think it's kind of understanding your constraints from external factors first and foremost, before then looking at, okay, right, here's how jiu-jitsu best fits around that. I think everybody looks at, all right, I've got to do this in my jiu-jitsu to get me to where I want to get to, which is fine, but it's got to fit around everything else, because that's ultimately where the bottleneck will lie in terms of your capacity to recover. Because you train, so one kind of like my pillars is making sure that the quality of your training is high, and ultimately you've got to be able to recover from what you're doing, and on the flip side, what you're doing has to also push you forward. And if those two aren't in sync, then you're going to have issues later down the line.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic point to start with. I think that the difficulty we have, obviously for you, like in normal sports, quote unquote normal sports, even guys who are playing at a Sunday league level, the focal point is always that game day, isn't it? In terms of like whether it's a Saturday or a Sunday. Obviously in the Prem now it's Friday and Monday and all that different stuff as well. But like the focal point is always the game, and it gives you that workaround, doesn't it? It gives you, right, well, this is the most important thing, and everything fits in within that. And within jiu-jitsu, unless you're obviously a competitor, but even if you're a competitor, frequency of competition is relatively slim compared to that of a football player or a rugby player or whatever. And we don't have that focal point for a week. And like you said, what that tends to lead to is everyone just goes, well, I've got 7 days. How can I just fit as much stuff into 7 days again? And then when Monday hits, it's like all that stress and all that fatigue that I've built up, that just disapparates because it's a Monday and I'll just do it again. And like it creates that really difficult sort of perspective from it. And then you obviously, like you said, factor in external factors. What's a person's actual goal that they're trying to achieve? What does the nuance of life provide from a training standpoint? And it can be difficult to do from that standpoint.
Yeah, I think as well it doesn't.
I'll let you
go on. Sorry, no, go on, Ed.
Yeah, because I was just going to say, on when you look at, you say you've got 7 days and try and cram as much into that 7 days as possible. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Okay, I'm coming. Okay, go on, sit down. Take this. Go this one. Okay, do you want to sit down here? Do you want to sit down here?
We should pre-warn all the guests that Ed is currently looking after his children. No, don't worry, mate. Don't worry.
Ed is still doing more than both of us.
Just sit here and just...
Yeah.
Sorry about that. So I'll say...
no, it's okay.
You got 7 days in a week. I need you to be quiet, okay? You want to sit there? You can sit there, okay? Okay. Sit here, but you have to be quiet, okay? Okay, so you've got 7 days in a week, and like I say, people do try and cram as much as they can in those 7 days. But I feel like you have to. The focal point isn't 1 point in a week. You got to think about sort of 2, 3, 4 weeks, and the knock-on effects. Let's say you go balls to the wall for 7 days. The knock-on effect that's going to have for week 2, week 3, week 4, and what will happen to fatigue and your ability to actually then train hard again for week 2, train hard again for week 3. Because what happens a lot is balls to the wall for week 1, week 2, you've got no choice but to pull back. Week 3 you can kind of pick back up again, but then you kind of just hit this cycle where like you kind of, it might be 2 weeks before you stop. I stop it. It might be 2 weeks before you have to pull back. 3 weeks you have to pull back, but at some point you have to pull back. So I think it's good to have that level of detail on your schedule, just so like you're a bit more proactive, and when you just this session or these 2 days, I'm going to pull back, because in the future or like in a week's time it'll allow me to then push again, and I can continue to build my ability to actually train hard. I turn it down because they can hear you. Okay? Because it'll improve my ability to actually train hard. Yeah, that's fine. Maya, just there, okay. Sorry, I hope that made sense around her trying to.
Yeah, cool. No, you're fine, mate. Don't worry. You know what, fine. And I think that is. No, go on, Dave. Sorry,
you've kind of, I was going to say something, and you've really made the point there that I think for a lot of grapplers, the fatigue accumulation tends to be a little bit longer term, because in this sport you can go slightly easier. You can train every day if you want to, if you're good at moderating what you do on the mat. The problem that you have is, because they don't have that regular like weekly competition, I'm sure it was the same for you, Andrew, but the day after a rugby match, I was like, I'm doing nothing. Like if I walk around like a normal human being, I've done well. Like, you are done for a day. And I don't think you get that to the same extent in jiu-jitsu unless you happen to compete in a particularly deep division, or you compete at a high enough level. You, especially like a lot of my guys are heavyweights and above, and they'll be tired, but they won't necessarily have had very many matches. So it's rare that they get that same kickback of like, I'm done for the day, or they do, and then they jump straight back into 6 days of the week, and then the next week it's 7 days. And I think it's very easy for people to not learn that lesson, and you do get it in other sports, but I think sometimes those other like big boy sports actually teach you that lesson quite quickly of like, you need a day off. Like, you have to have at least one a week. And I have to have that discussion with quite a lot of my clients that they don't want days off, and I'm like, well, then you're going to struggle with fatigue and it's going to.
And that's
term.
I think one big mistake when it comes to fatigue, people misunderstand is obviously fatigue dissipates, doesn't it? But it can also compound. Like if you don't allow the time for it to dissipate, then it will just build and build and build and build and build. And like you said, what that ends up happening is people lull themselves into this sort of fallacy of like, well, I'm actually recovering. But what they're really doing is they're just backing off the training so much that they're not actually getting anything done.
Yeah.
You're not. There's no stimulus involved. You think you're training, but really you're just going through the motions because that's the only output that you can sustain to manage that fatigue level. And like you said, that I guess that comes very much down to education in terms of like I had it the other day. I had a young client sort of be like, I think I can do 7 days a week, and I'm like, I'm yet to meet a person who can train 7 days a week and the wheels not fall off. I don't think I've met anybody. And like and again, it comes down to education, doesn't it? In terms of like people don't understand. Like I think as you get further along in your career, like it's something that I'm definitely learning as I'm getting older. And I imagine you two, if not already know it, are learning now. Is that you just haven't got the same ability to be able to push through, and you have that day of like you wake up and you're like, I just can't do anything today. Like and I think that's the problem again with jiu-jitsu is that's only something you learn as you get older and you pick up injuries that are a bit more, I guess, sensitive to the load of the week that you're doing, whether it's like you said, your elbows, your back, your neck, whatever it is that starts to flare up a little bit more. I know again, I've gone about a million times, people are sick of me talking about it, but like my back is so training load dependent. Like it's so, whether it feels good or bad is so dictated by how much I do in a week. And I think they're and it's consequences in it. Like when you're young, you don't learn those consequences of doing too much. You're like, well, because you made a rubber and fairy dust, you're just like, oh, I can just keep going. Whereas like when you get old, you're like, all right, that fairy dust is wearing out a little bit here. I need to, and like that's when fairy dust translates to steroids for a lot of masters grapplers. But like,
it's TRT.
Yeah, I was going to mention the point of steroids. I think that's probably why, especially with younger grapplers, there's this kind of like false sense of I can do that because I feel like they look up to the best guys and they see what they do and they're training twice a day, 6-7 days a week, and I should be doing that to get better. It's like, oh, a minute, there's a bit of a caveat there you might want to consider. Don't judge anybody, but I think that's probably part of the reason, especially in jiu-jitsu, with it being a lot more accepted than other sports, that you might see people thinking, oh yeah, that's the norm and that's what we should be doing because that's what our top guys do. I think it's something that does need kind of a little bit more education. And like I said, when you're young, you don't necessarily see or feel the consequences quite early, or early enough, I'd say. But yeah, I think it's just one that probably does need quite a bit of education on, just to make sure that people understand what the issues can arise, but also they understand what true like hard training feels like. And I feel like some people aren't necessarily they feel like, oh, it feels hard, so therefore it's having an effect. So like, no, like hard training is very, very different to training just being hard. And one's going to move you in the right direction, and the other's just going to make you tired. Like, and I think people...
no, definitely.
It's a bit of a and I think that you get guys go, oh, is that it? They see their training program, like, oh, it's not that much. I'm like, okay, well, let's see how you feel at the end of the session. I'm like, oh, that was plenty. You see 3 sets of 3, and you and to the untrained eye, they're like, well, that's only 9 reps. I'm like, tell me if you want to do a 10th at the end of that. And absolutely. That's the kind of high quality, high intensity training has to be properly recovered from. It can't just because guys are so used to this just like quagmire of low level, like volume over everything else, and it just the wheels fall off, but in a more chronic sense rather than an acute sense. I think again, it's like we've talked about. There's a quote that has been rattling around my head as soon as you said that, and I don't know who said it first. I heard it from Will, but I'm sure it's one of those ones that some American strength coach came up with in the 70s. But it's if you're training 100% every day, you're actually training at 50%. Like you cannot have high day after high day after high day after high day. It's just physically impossible. No one can do it.
Yeah. And I think that actually this rounds us, just to keep my professional hat on and keep us on track. This brings us to question number 2, and that is frequency versus quality. And it's not so much a question, more of a statement, really, in terms of how do we feel. And again, I guess the difficulty for most people is like we've basically already said, but like, how do we define what quality training is? Like, how do we define what are we looking for when it comes to quality training? And how do we find the balance between quality and frequency, I guess? Because obviously we know frequency is important. We need exposure, we need stimulus, we need that repetitiveness of exposure to the stimulus to put them all together. But like, how do we define that? What would your advice, recommendations be on that?
Training quality for me is, I think that you need to have a clear goal, clear target, first and foremost. And then your training quality is how effective what you're doing actually moves you towards that target. I think sometimes, especially when working with new clients, like, there isn't that clear goal, that clear direction. And without it, it's then hard to gauge, do you have high training quality or not? And look, if you don't have one, it's fine. It's good just to get on the mat and just that's an achievement in itself for some people. Like that's
yeah, definitely.
But let's say if you've got real goals to, okay, I want to be a good black belt, I want to compete, I want to do all this stuff. I think you need like a really clear goal, and you think your training quality is, you know, how well your training is actually moving you in that direction. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
No, don't worry, mate. Don't worry.
And then I'll come back to that in a second, but I'll just quickly go on to frequency and kind of like understanding the trade-off. And I think, obviously, you've got to consider your recovery capacity in that sense. I'll get it in 1 second, okay? Okay, sorry, mate. I'm just going to have to...
No, don't worry. I think that's a really good point. That I think that in terms of the quality, I think that's a really good point that Ed's made. I think I think for me, from my perspective, the thing I'm learning is it always has to start with that overriding message of like, what do you want out of this? And because that impacts the decision making so much. Like, if you want to be the best grappler that you can be, the context of that changes compared to being like, oh, but I want to get better at grappling, but I also want to build some muscle as well. Yeah. And how that decision making, like, obviously the thing with schedule is we're always, when it comes to making a good schedule, we're trying to define what's going to be the best course that's going to lead us towards that goal. Obviously, if you want to be the best grappler possible, everything is underpinned by the sport, isn't it? We always start with the sport. But if you're like, I don't know, you want to be a grappler, but you also want to do some running, like you want to be a trail runner or whatever, then the nuance, you have to understand that not every grappling session is going to be the most productive, because sometimes you're going to have to put more work into the other thing that you want to do. Or if you want to be, I don't know, a physique competitor, whatever that means, you're going to be a bit sore because you're going to have to push this as well as trying to do this as well. And it's that constant balance of like, what is it you want to see from an outcome perspective, and how can we build a schedule around that provides you with quality training, so you're not just spinning your wheels and you can move different goalposts, but you're also understanding that decision-making process and not getting frustrated when you turn up to training in the evening and you're a bit tired and you have not the best session, but because you've run 10 miles in the morning, it's all right. Do you know what I mean? Like, we've got to manage those expectations a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's part of growing up is realizing that everything is a trade-off. Like, whenever you are making choices, even if that choice is to do nothing, you are choosing. And so when we're trying to decide between this relationship between quality and frequency, from my personal perspective, I don't think all the frequency in the world isn't going to save you from having shit quality training. Like, that has to come first, because that is what, whether it's on the mats or off the mats, that's what's going to drive adaptation. And if the way that you're driving that adaptation is like bang average or rubbish, it's not going to, you're going to be one of those people in the gym who's still lifting exactly the same weights they lifted 15 years ago. and they look exactly the same as they did. There's not any change that's happened there because you haven't forced anything through. In the same way that if grappling is the main perspective, then the strength training needs to take a back seat. It needs to be there, but it's not necessarily something that we can push in the same way. And you have to accept the trade-off between the two. And for me personally, when I'm writing programs for almost all of my guys, it is quality first, and then we can play with frequency once we've worked it out. Unless their week dictates that it needs to look slightly different. I've had a few people recently where they probably train more frequently, but they're much shorter sessions, because I'm not willing to. I think that's the thing sometimes people don't realize is if someone says, I train 4 times a week. Well, if you train 4 times a week and you're like an elite powerlifter, that is going to look very different from someone else who says they lift 4 times a week, who has a coach writing the program for them. It could be that actually they're 4 half-an-hour sessions. It's actually 2 1-hour sessions divided in half. And I think sometimes that's the nuance that gets missed as well when we're talking about frequency, is that it could be that their weekly plan dictates the frequency, but actually it doesn't look all that different to what you would consider to be twice a week.
Yeah, no, definitely, I agree, and I think this is something that, again, it's difficult. Like to obviously we talk a lot about like skill on this podcast, but like one of the difficult things as you like anything, as you get more skillful, you have to find ways to create higher quality stimulus. Because when you first start something, you just get better by osmosis, don't you? The novelty of training is the thing that drives. Like you can just go in, drill some random shit, spar some rounds, and get better. But when you hit a point where like you're like, this just isn't working for me anymore, and that quality has to become the focus point, because otherwise there's just nothing happening. There's not enough of a driver to get you better at the thing. That was one of the first things that got me down the rabbit hole of all this skill stuff, because I was in a room and I was like, I'm not getting challenged enough. How am I going to get better? I need to find a way to get better with what I've got. And the only way to do that is to find higher quality ways of approaching problems and training and skill acquisition. It's like, and I think that's a difficult thing to for people to get their heads around. A, because the majority of people aren't a sad bastard and don't really care like I did. But like the other problem is they also don't know any better, because the only thing or the only bit of information they're getting is from their head coach, who just says, well, you need to drill more, you need to do this more. Like, and it just, there's no tangible evidence of like, how do we get more quality out? Like, drill harder. Like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, and
just keep showing up.
Yeah, just keep showing up, because that fucking works, doesn't it? And like it just, yeah. And I think that's the big thing, is this understanding of what we mean by quality is such a hard thing to define. And like obviously part of that is people think, well, I just need to train with harder trainer partners. But yeah, all right, that'll do you good. But if every round is with the best guys in the gym, you're gonna be fucked. Like, you're not going to get anything out of it, because you're just going to be so tired by the end of it that you're not even competitive anymore. Like, and that's where the nuance of this comes in, because you're also managing what's a good textbook definition of like quality training versus what's the real human experience of being on the mat with all these people.
Yeah, but I think that's part of. Again, I keep calling it growing up, but it is. You have to start becoming aware of like, yeah, that round sucked, but did I make better decisions? You know, when you actually have a quality that you're aiming for, or a specific sequence, or whatever you want it to be, are you making better decisions? Because you have to kind of reflect on that in a way that also takes into account the person that you're rolling with. Because if it's the best guy in the room, you made better decisions and they still wrecked you. That's fine, because that was going to happen.
Yeah.
If you were working on the initial, I don't know, say it's grip fighting, if you won the grip fight battle and they had to do something completely different and then screwed you over, you know you've improved, because you forced them to use something different. Whereas I think people still see it as win-loss, like just, oh, did I win that round? Well, yeah, and some of the best guys win those rounds, and then they get worse because they're in a room where no one's challenging them. You see it with like we've talked about before, the ultra heavyweights. You're the biggest bully guy in the gym, and then you come across another ultra heavyweight who's got a good guard, and suddenly you don't know what to do. So I think I think that's why that skill portion is so important, because then you, especially on the mats where it's so ethereal and so many coaches don't actually know what they're trying to teach, you can start to, as an individual, quantify and like work out the qualities that you want to develop. But it takes a certain amount of maturity to start making those decisions, and not everyone is ready to do that yet.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, you make a really good point on that with the. You're not trying to win the round necessarily, and I think, like I said, you are. It's a tough battle to win with certain people, but trying to get them to understand that, yeah, winning the round is good, but you've also got to put emphasis on some of those smaller battles that kind of guide you and tell you, okay, yeah, this is improvement. So I was speaking to, it was a while ago, this one of my clients asked me, I'm in a tough route, like, how do I know if I'm getting better? I'm saying, look, if you roll with a good black belt and you get chest to chest on a good black belt in a competitive round, you've done well. Like that's a small win. Like, I'm not saying I'm not saying I'm good. I'm just saying, like, if you're a blue belt and you get chest to chest on me, like, I'm like, shit.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try my best to get you off me. So if you do that against a good black belt, like, that's a win. You might have lost the round, you might have got swept and then submitted, but in that moment, that battle that you've won, that's something you've got to reflect on and look at. Okay, right, that's a positive. How did I do that? And then look to build on that. And that's something that probably I'll go into later. But just like, you've got to be really like reflective in like your rounds and stuff. I know it's hard. It's effort. Like, you've worked hard just to get to the mat. Now you've got to then go and reflect and potentially film and stuff like that. It's for some people, like some of my clients don't want to do it, which is fine. But I think it's such a powerful tool to make sure that you know why what's happening is happening. Like, why is it that on that day with this individual, why was I able to bypass some of those frames? Or why was I able to manage inside space better? Why was I able to manage a distance better against certain guys? And I think you've got to be very, if you really want to get better, I think for most people, it hasn't got to be like essays after each session, but just a couple of points. Okay, right, here's what went well. Here's why I think it went well. Here's how I'm going to try and improve it for the next session. I think that's such a powerful tool when it comes to your schedule, and it just adds to the quality a lot more. And when you go into your next session, it just compounds what you've got going into the next sessions to make sure that you're getting more out of each one. So
I agree.
I think we can make that more palatable by just mentally reframing it as, you've got to be more petty.
Yeah,
you've got to learn how to be petty, because but it, especially at white and blue belt, it is those tiny little petty things of like, how do I know I'm getting better against a good room? Did they get the very first thing they wanted on you?
Yeah.
Did that black belt do exactly what they wanted and you did nothing? No, well then you've improved. Do they use it? Like, I remember one of our black belts when I first started, it was like rolling with a wet towel. You felt like this angry wet towel hated you and would just crush you. And I remember someone asked him, like, how do I know if I'm getting better? And he was amazing. He was just like, well, if you can't work that out, you're an idiot. But eventually he did say to them, like, well, did I get exactly what I wanted? And he was like, well, no, not on a couple of things. I go, so there you go, that's better than last week. And it's realizing that sometimes that development has to be that small. And I think it's, when you first start, it's that small, especially in the early months of white belt, because you know nothing. So just figuring out where you are is an improvement. But once you start to get good, it has to narrow down again, because that's where the bottlenecks are going to be. They're going to be much smaller than they used to be. They're not going to be, I don't know any takedowns. They're going to be, I didn't shoot because of this specific, their footwork was better or whatever. Something didn't work. My go-to didn't work. Why was that? And you're going to have to dig into kind of work out exactly what thing didn't quite work for you in a way that you don't necessarily have to when you're in that midpoint of improving, where you know a bit, but actually, like a blue belt and maybe some of the early competitions at purple belt, where you realize, like, oh, there's a whole area of my game that's deficient, and that gives you quite an easy thing to go and jump down, because you go, oh, I've never seen that before.
And I think, like, a really good, valid point I think that this might be really useful for people. And again, without blowing my own trumpet and banging the fucking representative CLA drum more. But like one of the things that I personally think is one of the best things about using more live game-based training is it's outcome focused, not move focused. So one of the ways that you can look at, am I getting good quality training in? Am I getting better? Is, are you achieving outcomes as opposed to just trying to repeat moves? Like, we play an outcome-based sport. Whether people like to believe it or not, it is an outcome-based sport. Like Ed said, Did you get chest to chest? Did you put them on their arse? Could you get their hands to the mat? Did you win the inside space? Whatever it is, like, it is an outcome-based sport. And the more we can achieve outcomes in training as opposed to just winning rounds, the better we're going to start to see it from a development standpoint. Yeah. And if you can make that switch within your training in terms of whether it's like you're going in with, I don't know, a bit of a goal, like let's use chest to chest, like Ed said. How many times can you get chest to chest on your opponents? Whether you've got your legs entangled, whether you've not got your legs entangled, whether you've got mount, side control, whatever it is, how many times can you achieve that outcome and then go and reflect on it? And if you can start to achieve outcomes as opposed to thinking, well, I need to use a knee cut pass or I need to use a fucking, I don't know, Toriando pass, whatever it is, you can start to build that context of like, right, I can now start to see positive improvements towards an outcome, not just being like, how many times did I fucking hit a berimbolo tonight? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's, and I think that's such a valuable thing. Even if you're not using it's easy for me because A, I write all the sessions for our gym, but B, I train in a gym that is a representative gym. Yeah. But like, if you don't, and you do still fucking drill or whatever, like, I'm not here to judge you, although I do slightly judge you. Can you start achieving outcomes as opposed to just trying to repeat moves that you've seen on Instagram or whatever you've been taught?
Yeah.
Again, and I think that's such an easier way.
But it's pettiness again. Like, it sounds like I'm being silly, but I do mean it in that, like, one of the best training partners I have would finish a round and someone would go, oh, well, I got you with whatever. And he's like, yeah, but I was up 12 points. Because in his head, all he was training for was that was the improvement he was going for. Or he goes, oh, well, I got chest to chest 6 times. And you're like, I didn't even know this was the competition we were having. But and that's what I mean when sometimes people are very good. Especially the elite level guys, and I think it's why they rail against CLA and they go, no, people don't need this, because they just naturally do it. They are that petty. They do want to problem solve. They do that. So, yeah.
And I think, like... Sorry. No, go on, Ed, sorry. No, go, man, go.
I get that now. Because I know a while ago I used to post after every session, like, what I was actually working on and what I was trying to do. And I used to get that before rolls, and people would be like, oh, what are you doing today? I'm just like, I don't want to tell you. It defeats the purpose. I don't want to tell you.
Jiu Jitsu.
Yeah, I'm just working on getting better. Like, again, when I'm in, like, sorry, lads.
It's okay.
So
we're embracing the chaos.
I've got a skill level that's not as high as my own. I'm not good, but let's just say I'm in a room full of like white belts and like low blue belts. Like, I will go through that process where, like, okay, right, I'll set myself a challenge. I don't care about getting the silver. I don't care about winning the round. It'll just be a challenge of, well, can I get them to react in a certain way consistently under my complete control? Sorry, she's doing something really silly over it. Can I get them to react in the way I want them to react, as opposed to just thinking, oh, I'm going to just try and get 5 subs? I don't think that's necessarily... I don't know how you guys feel. So you guys are brown and black belts. Like, it's not productive for me. I don't feel like I've achieved much if I go and sub a white belt 5 times in a row. That's not really... That's not anything for me. Like, I've got to, again, it's where it comes back to training quality and, you know, having those targets within your session, long term as well. But you always have to reference and work towards to make sure that, you know, it allows you to move you towards where you want to get to. That's enough.
No, I definitely agree with that. That was loud, wasn't it? I definitely agree with that. In the context of and you also have to use and again, this is almost a skill in itself as you start to get better at jiu-jitsu, is use what the room provides you. Like if you do no other work, look around the room and be like, right, well, he's really good at that, she's really good at that, he's really good at that. How can I leverage that to my advantage? Like if you've got someone who's, I don't know, really good at leg locks, even if you do nothing else, you've got no outcomes, just go and play leg locks with that person. Do you know what I mean? You might get tapped, you might lose over and over again, but at least you're starting to get some exposure to the problem. If you've got someone who's really good at guard passing, go and play guard against them. Whatever it is, do you know what I mean? Like we've got lads at our gym that are like, I mean, like every gym, but like we've got like, I always laugh, like we've got you know Eddie, don't you, Dave? I don't know if you've ever trained with Eddie, but like Eddie's like a 7
years ago when he was like 15.
Yeah, so like Eddie's like a 19, 20-year-old purple belt. He's like 70 kilos, and it's like it would be useless to me to just go and get hold of him and squish him. But like he's so good on your back. Like he's so good at it. Like he's one of them lads that you're like, you click your fingers and he's fucking behind you, and you're like, how the fuck have you got there? But it's like, use it. Use that to your strengths. Like if you've got someone who's like, if you do no other work, rather than just being like, I'm going to try and win this round, again, win an outcome. Like go and play leg locks with the lad who's really good at leg locks. Go and fucking play guard against the lad who's really good at guard passing. Whatever it is, like you can find ways to build that exposure, build that quality, and start to win outcomes. Like, and as you start to do it, like let's say for example, you use the leg lock guy. You first and foremost, you start by just going in and just doing anything, just try and escape or whatever, try and counter him, whatever it is. And after a session or two, then start to apply an objective within that. So it's like, right, where am I going wrong? Well, he's doing this. Okay, well, could I do a better job of fighting the hands? Could I do a better job of getting both my legs in between his legs, dealing with the connection to my hip, whatever it is, and use that as your training. If you, especially if you are in a gym that isn't giving you very much from an outcome perspective, and they are just going, right, we're going to do 5-minute rounds. Find ways to build outcomes into your training that you know you're going to get, and leverage that to your strengths. Like whatever it is, like if it's a good guard passer, can I just keep him in front of me and get 3 points of contact?
Yeah,
as a base level. Then can I get his hands to the mat? Brilliant. Like Ed said, try and find ways to create reactions. Then it's like, right, well, can I get a foot off the ground, 2 feet off the ground? Can I, whatever, do you know what I go on this fucking hours? Yeah. But like, start to use what the room provides you. If you've got nothing else, look around the room, right, what can it provide me? If it can't provide you anything, like Ed said, if you're a black belt and you're in a room full of white belts, right, well, where can I find that win in this? Could I don't know, like, could I try and pass them without using my hands? Whatever it is, like, try and find ways to get that quality where it's not necessarily a directed response, but I think a real part of being taking ownership of your jiu-jitsu and your training in general is finding ways to get things out the room.
Yeah, I think I like that level of intention, because we're talking about the quality and frequency trade-off, and I feel like that level of intention to drive that quality kind of makes up for lack of frequency, if you will. So I know I can't remember who it was that said, I want to say it was Josh Saunders. One of the things he's big on, obviously, is pushing the frequency, because you can make those iterations very quickly. So if something happens in your morning session and you want to address it, you can address it a few hours later in your evening session, which is fine if you can train 6 days a week, twice a day. Most of us can't.
Yeah.
But if you've got that level of intention, that level of, just training with purpose, if your next session's in 3 days, it's like you're still going to get quite a lot of return, because you've got real purpose going into that session. So it kind of makes up for, let's say if you can only train 3-4 times a week, it kind of makes up for the fact that you aren't going to be able to train every day, because each session is a real purpose that's going to compound and move you forward. So this is why having that those goals within your session long term, that's so important, because most of us can't train 5-6 times a week. Well, I definitely can't. So if you're in that position 2, 3, 4 times a week, and you've got that, that's what's going to help you make sure you continue to make progress. And that's why you'll see some guys who train 2-3 times a week and they're flying. And you got some guys who go all in 5-6 times a week and like, I'm not much better.
They're the same mistakes 5 times a week instead of twice a week. Because if you're not addressing it, you're just not going to. Yeah, I think that's really important. The ability to reflect on it allows you to actually make those adjustments rather than just just keep turning up. Well, if you just keep turning up and making exactly the same mistakes, then when are you going to get any better?
It's difficult, isn't it? And like,
to what you guys said, was it depends on the white belt.
Yeah.
Because there are some white belts that need a good old-fashioned bullying. But yeah, like, again, it ties into that. I'll push it one more time, but pettiness. Like, can I hold that person down like, for me, it's, can I hold that person in bottom side control, a position they should be able to get out of very easily in no-gi because it sucks. And can I hold it in, like, with minimal effort? Can I, like, do nothing? Can I end this round having done fuck all, not put my weight on them, not, like, literally just worked out how to structurally hold them in place? And that partly ties into bullying the white belt, because I'm like, well, if you can't get out of there, what are you going to do? Like, that has to be a position you're good at getting away from, because you're going to live there whether you like it or not. But yeah, like, so we've been unfortunate in that one of the guys that I trained with had a head injury that was a bleed on the brain. He's recovering from it really, really well now, but it's meant that he was like, I literally just want to sit and play leg locks. He's like, I can't afford to do anything that involves hitting my head. So for me, it's been great because I've just had to sit there and go, cool, well, I'm just going to die here because I can't use the things that I would normally do. I can't stand up and deal with it. I can't try and take you back. I can't, because I don't want to hit you in the head. So I've just had to sit there and eat shit basically for about 4 weeks of just getting leg locked. And that's been very helpful to force me to work out what are the finer points of what I'm doing wrong.
Yeah, I think it's really good, and it's that, and there's so much nuance to this, and especially like, again, for me, from a coach perspective, I don't know about you two, but like when I'm sitting down with a client, you almost have to write scheduling, to bring it back to the original point, and programs based on your understanding of what a normal jiu-jitsu gym is like.
Yeah.
Like you obviously, because there's always one of the difficult things I always think within the industry that we have is like, people talk about training load and all this sort of stuff, but within a jiu-jitsu class, the variation of training load within a session is so variable in terms of, like, you could always train on a Tuesday and you can have a rough expectation of what a Tuesday is going to be like, but like, you've got no idea what that session is going to be like until you turn up. You don't know if it's just going to be you in a room full of black belts, or you're just going to be us, like a black belt in a room full of white belts. The spectrum of what that session might look like can widely change. And again, within that, you've got to be able to make the decisions based on that. But I forgot my original point. What were we talking about?
Frequency and writing a training week, and the fact that you have to
it's a
normal gym.
Yeah. So, that's it. So, like, we almost have to make assumptions of what, like, it's all. If I was working with one of the guys at my gym, it's easy because I know exactly what their week's going to look like. I know what they're doing every session. I know what to expect. Who's going to be turning up to training. But like, if you work with someone remotely, again, I presume it's exactly the same for you. We've got no idea what their training room looks like. Like, we've got no idea what they're doing week to week. Especially if they don't, like, if they run the gym, it's a bit easier because you can go, all right, well, what are you doing this week? But like, if you're just a random blue belt, we've got no idea what that training week's going to look like. So we have to almost make assumptions based on the information they give us and our understanding from going to jiu-jitsu gyms and whatever it is. But and I think within that, again, it becomes this, we sort of make educated guesses of like, well, this is a rough guideline of what a training week's going to look like, and can we drive them in this area? Obviously, again, Ed, I presume this is something that you do a lot because of what you do from like an outcome perspective. Like, you're obviously big on intentions as well. It's like, right, well, we know that Tuesday nights is like a pretty easy night for you relatively. How can we get the most out of that session? We know that Thursday nights is really, really hard. That might be like their competition session. Maybe we worry a little bit less about intentions and more about outcomes. and whatever it is, like, do we, in a performance-based session, what I'd call a performance-based session, where it is maybe more competition focused, much more harder live training, that's where we want to drive performance outcomes. So can we score points? Can we accumulate submissions? Whatever it is. But if it's like a skills session, can we be more outcome focused from a skills perspective? Like, can we get chest, whatever it is, chest to chest? Can we get their hands to the mat as many times as we can? Whatever it is, like, and start to build a little bit more nuance in that way, so that we know that we're sort of covering our bases from a performance standpoint or an improvement standpoint.
Yeah. Sorry, just give me 1 second. She's actually.
Yeah, all right. I don't know.
That's all right. So I think that kind of leads us nicely into what both of us wanted to ask you about, Ed. Is you do a lot of stuff around tracking training load and trying to quantify that. And both of us, we've had this discussion privately. I think I've even messaged Ed about this before. But how the hell do you get people to fill those forms out? Because I've played with acute to chronic workload ratio and stuff like that. And my biggest barrier to getting any of it to work is that no one tells me anything. Like, I quite like Andrew's approach of what rate your week out of 10. That generally gives you a concept of, like, was it a tough week? Was it an easy week? And that's helpful. But I think it's also why so many guys run to whoops and run to things like that, because they want to know how hard their training was, because it's, you know, you might have an easy week without intending it to be because everyone's sick and there's hardly anyone on the mats. But at the same time, I don't think those sort of technological solutions actually work particularly well. I think it's much more important that people are evaluating their week and evaluating how they feel about it, because fundamentally your perception of that week carries a lot more weight than whether your training band tells you it was a tough week or not. But I'm interested to hear how you go about getting people to fill those out so that you've got something a bit more in depth to work with, because that would be my dream, is to get people to fill that out. But getting them to tell me whether it was an easy week or a hard week is enough of a battle at the moment.
Yeah, I think just operationally, it's just like a section on. So I use TrueCoach as my software, so I'll put it in there as like a link. So I'll create a workout, link goes in there. So they'll go on. It'll just be, I'll try and keep everything in one place. So the sessions are on there, and then when they go on to their TrueCoach, link for the train load form, and it'll just be 3 questions. How hard was the session? Sorry, how long was the session? How hard overall? And then if you guys familiar with differential RPE, so you get session RPE, which is just an overall how hard the session was. Differential RPE being how hard the session was based on different components. So first one being breathlessness, so like cardio. How hard was it on your cardio? Muscular effort, so how hard was it from a exertion standpoint? And then from a tactical standpoint, how hard did you find it to execute what your intended outcomes were? I'll tell you where I've got it right and where I've got it wrong. Where I've got it wrong is I've done that and necessarily created tons of conversation around it. And I think if you're creating good conversation, productive conversation that leads to action, you're going to get it back constantly. So I've got a couple guys who like fill it out religiously. They reflect on the sessions, and it helps me understand what their week looks like. But it's based on the fact that because I've got the initial buy-in, my feedback is good and it's productive for them. It helps them. Where it may not have been as productive is where I might have got some but not a lot, and I'm not really been able to give a good kind of level of insight into what their week looked like, and as a result of that, it's not very productive on their point of view, so they can't really act on it. So for them, it's like, what's the point of me filling it out? And that's what like, it's one of them ones. So I think as long as it comes with, like, the data is one thing, and it's good to have it, but like the interpretation and the message you're getting across is the key. And I think that's the main thing to kind of, for me, that's what I focus my attention on. As long as the message that I get across is, valuable, and it lands in a way that drives action, then that's what's always going to help me get those guys to be consistent in getting those forms filled out. Because like the dashboards are nice. It's good to have all like the fancy graphs and stuff like that. Like mine's just a really simple table. There's some like stats in there just so I know like what the average is for the last 4 weeks, how it relates to what you've done this week, and then what the last sort of 6 weeks look like to help me paint a clear picture of what your training look like. But ultimately, the main thing is, okay, right, what does this mean for next week's training sessions? What does it mean for the next couple of weeks? What does it mean for the next comp you're coming up? That's what I need to make sure I've got in primarily before I even think about having like nice dashboards that look nice and pretty and I can post on Instagram. That's the main thing.
Yeah, it's a good. I think it's. I imagine if you spoke to every, I don't know, whether it's your PT, whether you're a strength and conditioning coach, whatever it is, I think gathering feedback is probably the bane of most remote coaches' life. I think it is challenging, and like it's so. I've figured it's so interpersonal in that like I've got some clients that I can send them like a 30-minute, 40-minute, like really detailed check-in every week, and then others I'll get like, what was your goal this week? And it'd be like, arm bars. Did it go well? Yes. And you're just like, right, well, what am I going to do with that? Like, brilliant. It's gone well. I'm glad.
Like cool.
And to be fair,
like
people are fine with that. That's all they want, really. Just like,
yeah.
I used to do like really like long, drawn out videos to break down every aspect of the week, and some guys wouldn't even watch it. And I started doing like 1 or 2 minute voice notes. I'm like, yeah, great, cheers for that.
It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah. I was going to ask that is it quite individualistic? Because I've got clients who there's a lot of conversation, a lot of back and forth, and then I've got others where I'm like, I don't know if you're alive. I know through my other clients who know you that you're still alive and telling you it's going well. But there's a really good book. Yeah. Well, there's a really good book, and I can't think of the title or the author, but it's called Embrace the Chaos, and it's about working with action sports athletes, and he puts all of the athletes on this spectrum, and I think it's street skateboarders are like, you will never hear from them because they are out making architecture do things it shouldn't do, and that is how it should be. Like he said, if you hear from them, something's wrong. And it's recognizing that I think you've got some clients who sit on that end of the spectrum, and then some clients who are very like, they like the order, they like the discussion, they like the guidance.
Yeah, so, that was for me when I first started going online. Like I wanted, because when you come from in sport, like everything's tracked, everything's so like, you know, everything's evaluated. Thing is watched at what you do and stuff like that. And so I'm thinking like, right, this is what I've got to be like with everybody. And it got to a point where, like, especially when I was busy, I'll try to do that approach for everybody. I was like, he's not responding. What's going on? And he'll come back and like 2 weeks later, your training's been great. I was like, I've not heard from you in 20 days. What's going on? And training's fine.
And I think one of the most difficult, and this is a slight caveat in changing topic and something we're actually doing with another guest, but like, I think one of the hardest things as well is data points. Like I always say on Instagram, like there's certain coaches that are like post their like the heart rate data, and it's like, this is what we've done, and if you notice their heart rate recovery is improved by 2 seconds or whatever, and that's great, but like it doesn't mean that much really. It doesn't actually mean you're getting better at the sport. Like our job is very difficult when it comes to transfer, as we all know, because improving a training modality doesn't mean it's going to improve performance modalities as well. So like we like data points because that's the job we're in. We're like looking at it going like, oh, look at this, your velocity is improved by 0. whatever meters per second or whatever. But to a normal person, that doesn't mean fuck all. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just meaningless data. So like it's always that fine point of like you said, there's going to be some people who are really analytical who overthink everything, and you're almost going like, just relax. This is your hobby. You don't need it's like, calm down. It's not the end of the world. But like, you've also got others that, like you said, will just be like, yeah, it's all right. Right, yeah, it's good. And you're just like, brilliant. Right, great. As long as you're happy, that's what matters. Like,
I like this list. Okay. yeah. But I think it's also realizing what your role is as a private sector coach, because it's a very different set of circumstances. And I think, in a way, if you can make those guys more there's an aspect of making people more psychologically robust in that they don't necessarily give you that much back. Whereas I think sometimes there can be a tendency from people who are like, they worry. I've had clients who really worry, like, oh, I've not been able to do this. I had to swap it for this exercise. Is it okay? And I've been guilty of doing that with my coach. And I'm just like, yeah, it's fine. Sounds sensible to me. Like, unless it's really dumb. I think that's important as well, because I've got a client recently who was in the Wigan under-19 setup, and he's finding aspects of training now quite difficult because it was all or nothing. Because when he was in that environment, it was everything's done for you. Your food, your sleep, your like everything is sorted out. You don't have to think, you just go and play. And now he's got a job, he's got other things, and he's like, I still want to train, I still want to play at a low level. But he finds that navigating the world with like all the freedom of choice much more difficult than just having had everything sorted for him. And I think in the private sector, that's a thing that we tend to end up doing more of. And in a sport that isn't as professional and doesn't have anything like the resources that football or rugby league or rugby union have, you have to learn to like meet people where they are rather than where we might want them to be filling out the forms.
And I think, and like obviously me and Ed were talking before the podcast about obviously his aspirations from a work perspective in terms of football and the Premier League. But obviously in football, like if you're the strength conditioning, let's say you're the strength conditioning coach at Manchester City, you've got a £50 million asset stood in front of you. That's a very different conversation than Barry the Blue Belt. Like it's a very different spectrum that you're dealing with. Obviously, there's still people, and just because someone's worth that doesn't mean that their value is more than Barry the Blue Belt. But like how you navigate that process is a very different experience. And I imagine Ed will tell us that there's definitely troubles with that approach. Like you said, they don't actually learn to make decisions for themselves because everyone just makes decisions for them because their sole focus is to go out on a Saturday and score a goal or whatever. But like, it's funny, isn't it? Like how the context of the job changes depending on what it is you're dealing with and the context within that itself.
Yeah, it's one of them. You have to be so, I won't say careful, but you know, it's one of them ones. Like if it goes wrong and it goes left, it goes all the way left because of the profile and the value and what that player's role is within the club. Like if you do something to a player and they can't play on a Saturday for a week or two, that's a big deal. You're getting pulled into meetings and you're going to ask to explain yourself. So you've got to be on top of your track. You've got to be on top of your data. You've got to be on top of your decisions. Yeah. It's happened to me a couple of times. Not recently, but like a while ago on the path. Even for younger players, you get pulled in for a 15 or a 16-year-old not being able to play on the weekend because of something that you did. Maybe not to that extent, but you know, you're going to be asked like, "Oh, what happened?" So you got to be able to show, okay, right,
to back yourself.
Yeah, look, it's fine to make mistakes, and no one's going to absolutely kill you for making a mistake. But you've got to show that you had. You have to show that you had that player's best interest at heart. But you've got to be able to track that and show that and communicate that. That's why, like I said, that kind of reflects on how I initially approached the private sector, and you know, trying to meticulously track everything. But like I said, you got to meet them where they're at. They don't want. Some people don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And you don't need to. That's something I you don't need to. Like
it is interesting.
Yeah. But
I always think this, and like obviously to bring it back to the sort of original topic of this idea of scheduling and planning is that it's funny. I got an Instagram ad this morning. I was doom scrolling whilst I was having my breakfast, and I got an Instagram ad, and it was like some strength coach sort of saying like, you don't need to train like a strength athlete. You need to train like a grappler because you're not prepared for the demands of the sport. And in my head, I was thinking, and don't get me wrong, like we all do that. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But I almost think like sometimes you hear these things and you go, well, what happens? How do you explain it when a client gets injured? Like if you sold them on this idea of like, if you train like this, you will not get hurt. How do you how do you explain it when they eventually get hurt? Because everybody gets fucking hurt. Like, I'm
really sorry. I'm dumb. I shouldn't have I painted myself into a corner.
Yeah, you just weren't prepared enough. Like where I don't know,
what
mate.
Did you do wrong? How is it your fault that you've got hurt because I told you wouldn't?
Yeah, like I think there's always, if anyone's listening to this, I think one of the things that you always have to take away when it comes down to this is there's that frustrating thing where you hear coaches, any coach that's worth their salt will always answer a question with "it depends." It's the age old frustration. But I think it's one of the difficulties with this sort of stuff is we can give you so much advice and so much tips, but this is where the personalised side of coaching comes into the mix, because it is so dependent on what does your week look like, what does your life look like, what is it are we going to get out of it, like, and the conversations are at how you mentally approach training. Like, if you're somebody like I said, like, I've not got kids, but both Ed and Dave, I mean, Ed, you can see he's got a kid from this entire episode. Dave's got 2 kids as well. How you mentally approach training is going to be vastly different to the 20-year-old who's got no life responsibilities. Yeah. They've not had 3 hours sleep at night because the kids are keeping them up. Like, and it's such a different context of what it is you're going to get out of training. On paper, it might look very similar. It might look really similar. You might go, well, hang on a minute. To my eye, that looks exactly the same, but the context and how you frame that, and like we talk about, like, reflection being such an important part of the puzzle, is to be able to go, right, how was training tonight? Well, it was all right, but I lost this round. Well, why did you lose that round? Well, they're 20 years old and have got nothing else to do with their life. What have I done today? Well, I've worked for 8 hours. I took my kids to school. I picked my kids up from school. I had to prep a load of meals for them to eat so I can go to training, whatever it is. I managed to squeeze a 45-minute strength session in before I went and did my rolling. Like, that nuance of that debate is so different person to person.
Yeah, but I think that also has to change your perspective of what you want to be. Kind of has to shift with that. So, like, even the difference between a 20-year-old with no responsibilities and a 25-year-old with very few responsibilities, just to pluck out 2 examples. You're closer to puberty at 20. You're going to be able to get away with an awful lot of stuff you probably shouldn't get away with. I get a lot of guys who past 25 go, I just can't do it anymore. And I'm like, no, you were just dumb, and now you can't get away with being dumb anymore. It's not, you haven't got weakness, you haven't got, it's just you're having to learn that there's an actual reality that you could deny because you had more testosterone thrown through your body than it would normally. I like that point, and it's kind of, it's funny watching people. No, my brain's gone. I've got nothing. I've completely lost what I was going to say.
Well, it's a really good, like, me and Josh, obviously Josh, who co-owns the gym with me, obviously has also been like my best mate since we were at primary school. So, but it's like we talk, so like you might go to like an open mat, say you go to an open mat, and you'll be rolling with a lad who, on skill wise, you're probably quite even with, but like you might end up losing a round, and it's purely because he gives a shit more than you do. Because and we always talk, like, when we first started training, like we used to spar at like 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, like just me, him, and like maybe another lad, and like that no longer happens. And we always say, well, what's changed? And it's like, well, we were single, we were unemployed, we were like, and now we've got jobs and girlfriends and dogs and responsibilities. Like obviously you two have got kids, and it's like, if I go to an open mat on a Saturday, or even if I'm training at our gym or whatever it is, wherever you're training, there's always going to be an element of like, how much do I actually care about this round?
Yeah.
Is it enough for me to just like?
Go on. Sorry.
No. I was just gonna say, like, that can be why it's important to reflect on the situation and have a bit of a realism to your training, is to be able to go, well, was it a skill factor, or was it purely that I just don't care as much as that other person cares?
Yeah.
And especially if someone's competitive, like if you're prepping for a competition, there's that extra 5-10% of like oh no, this really matters now.
Yeah.
Versus when you're not, it's like, does it really matter that I'm like trying to kill myself to pass him? Probably not. Like, there's that level of nuance that we've got to build, and that's worth understanding as well, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and I remembered what I was going to say was sometimes you have to make that decision of, do I want to gut my way out of this, or do I want to be able to pick my kids up and hold them up in the air this evening? Like that, it can be that, like, my neck gets really bad. So for me, it's like, do I actually want to fight my way out of this choke that I know I probably could, or do I want to look left and be able to talk to my son? Like, I think I'll take the easier option today. And you just kind of learn that humility, but then also being aware of, like, actually, if it was a competition, I probably could take that risk and roll the dice, and I'd be happier with that. Whereas when it's like a Wednesday afternoon, no, I'm all right. I can take that or leave that sometimes.
Yeah, I think for me, that's been a big...
And you have to change...
Sorry, go on. I'll let you finish.
Go on. No, go on, Ed.
I was going to say, that's been a big learning curve for me over the last couple of years, because when I was brown and purple, even like, I was still mature at brown, but like I was like, I'm not getting tapped today. Even on a random Wednesday night, for some people, that Wednesday night sparring, that's world's finals, and like thinking I'm not getting tapped. But like now, black belt, like honestly, I've been tapped by lower belts more than I think I ever have at any belt.
Yeah,
and it goes back to what you were saying.
And again,
do I want to prove to myself that I can get out of this choke, or do I want to be able to function properly tomorrow because I got to look after little ones, or you got to walk a dog properly, or you've got to, you've got something with your missus that you need to not have your face looking like you've been in the war for. Like,
and I think that's it's something that I think to bring it back. I'm on my game today, lads. Being professional with this podcast. To bring it back to a point we made earlier in terms of like, how do we monitor that we're getting better, and how do we go into training with intentions? It's like people put so much emphasis on this, like, I didn't get tapped, and it's a very cliche thing, but like being tapped you're there to get better.
Yeah,
training facilitates improvement. If you're not getting tapped, we're all quite seasoned grapplers at this point. It'd be quite easy to go into a session and like go, well, I'm going to play my game. I'm not going to lose a round. I'm going to fight for everything. I'm not going to get past. I'm not going to get my back taken or whatever. And does that actually? There are certain elements that will help you with, but overall, does that help you develop as a grappler? Are you trying new things? Are you exposing yourself to new problems, new ways of solving them? Probably not. And
you only get your A game.
Yeah, and it comes back to that conversation of like, what is it that's actually driving improvement? If I go and start to work on leg locks, whatever it is, and I'm exposing myself to loads of new information, I'm dealing with somebody who's so much more experienced, so much better at this than me, doesn't matter whether I'm a black belt or a white belt, I'm probably going to lose a couple.
Yeah.
And that there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I people always say this, like, you want to get tapped, and I think people misunderstand this context of like putting themselves in bad positions. I think it has to be. I'm not going to go off on a tangent, I promise, but like it has to be representative. You have to fabricate it that it becomes realistic, and it's as close to the real thing as we can, rather than just being like, I'm just going to let him pass me, and I'm just going to work out a side control. Again, there's not necessarily anything wrong with that, but it's like, it's not. If you're just letting people do things, it's not really representative. So finding a way of creating a challenge, again, whether it's the guy who's really good at leg locking, whether it's the guy who's really good at guard passing, and use that to then drive it. And you are going to lose. You're going to lose rounds. You're going to get tapped. Like Ed said, I get tapped every week, by lads that are younger than us. But it's not necessarily because they're better than me. It's because I'm using their strengths to my advantage. And I'm be like, they're good at this. I'm just going to go and do this. If I wanted to win the round, like you said, get hold of them, sweep them, squeeze the fucking life out of them, and just not let them move. But it doesn't help them. It doesn't help me. So like, you are going to lose rounds. You are going to lose positions. You're going to get tapped, and that's fine. No one's going, fuck me. Ed's not a black belt because he got tapped off that purple belt. Dave's not a brown belt, like, because he got tapped off that blue belt. Like, it's the narrative, and that's what always makes me laugh when guys are like, I did this in training, and I'm like, brilliant. do you want a fucking medal? Like, what does it matter? Like, it's with that, and it's something that I don't obviously. I'm quite fortunate because obviously I run a gym, but like that's one of the big messages that we always have like a focus for the year in terms of how are we getting guys to approach the training. And this year it is about like, it's training. It's about getting better, not just winning rounds. And that means that we have to approach training in a different manner. Like you said, like, obviously I've never been in a professional football environment, Ed, but like, I don't imagine that your lads go in and they go, right, lads, we're going to have a kickabout, and whoever wins the game, they're on the team sheet at the weekend. Yeah. They're facilitating skill, whether it's movement games, drills, or whatever it is, whether it's space, whether it's ball playing, whatever. I don't know, obviously, fuck knows. Obviously, I understand football, but I've never been in a training environment. So, like, it's like Pep Guardiola don't rock up to City and they go, right, lads, let's just have a kickabout and see how it goes. Yeah. Like, it's just fucking baffling.
I think sometimes people look at it and think, oh, I'm so far removed from that mindset because they're not competing at a high level, which I get to a degree, but then you're also not training very often. So, like, you want to have some level of, like, intention and thoughtfulness into what you're actually doing. And again, there can be layers to it. You can be really analytical and look at every little detail, which some people do. Jiu-Jitsu is known for that. With autism seem to be a popular thing. But there can be layers to it. Like it could just be as simple as, okay, right, I'm going to be a bit more aggressive today and see what happens, or I'm going to work on these types of positions, or work on these types of grips and these types of battles. It can be as simple as that, and that'll move you further along than just rocking up and be like, okay, whatever's being taught today, I'm just going to work on that, or whatever's being. Okay, let me not say that because I don't want to disrespect any coach, but like whatever's just being...
Nah, fuck them.
Whatever's being thrown in front of me, that's just what I'm going to deal with. Like, no, let's just have a little bit of intention. It could be as simple as, I'm just going to play a little bit more aggressive today, and I'm going to try and progress my position a bit quicker, because I'll put you in positions that you might not have experienced before, give you exposure to new scenarios where you're now having to make decisions quicker, or make different decisions, deal with different reactions, and that's ultimately what's going to help progress you moving forward, as opposed to, like I said, just rocking up and just letting whatever's in front of you just handle your training for you. So it's just taking a little bit of control of your development and your progress and training.
I think that's a fantastic point, Ed, and I think one of the ways that I always sort of like to frame this, and you're completely right, because obviously we're making this sound very serious, and obviously it's people's hobby. We want them to enjoy themselves. Like, it should be fun, you should be engaged, like you should be enjoying your training. But like you said, when people sort of go like, well, I'm not a professional, I'm not looking to compete all the time. But then I always say the question, well, what happens in 3 years' time when you turn around and you're like, oh, I'm not getting any better at this, I'm just going to pack it in.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like there has to be an element of, it'll catch up with you. It happens to everyone. So, like, yes, you don't have to take it too seriously. And like you said, Ed, it could just be like, I have a session a week when I'm just like, my sole focus tonight is to just go and have some fun. And just like, it's just to piss around, doing like mad shit. Like, if I get sweat on my arse, if I get tapped, like, it's just to enjoy jiu-jitsu and grappling for what it is. And then there are other days where you're like, no, I'm going in with this. But like, you can still get better and enjoy it. And it might just be that tonight I'm going to be a bit more aggressive. Tonight I'm going to have a good go. I'm going to see what I can do. Tonight I'm going to play a bit more. I'm going to have some fun. I'm going to try some different stuff. I'm not going to be too worried about what it is or whatever it is. And like, there's so many different ways that you can leverage this sort of stuff in your favour to get the most out of your training. Yeah. And as long as it's something that's repeatable and it's something that you can do consistently and something that you can fundamentally reflect on, you're starting to create a process that is not too dissimilar to a professional training environment. It's all that they do. Like, they're doing the same shit. They just might be a bit more meticulous with it. Like you said, with your guys at the pro level in football, it's obviously there's a lot more data, there's a lot more tracking. You don't have to go that far. But it is just a case of like shaping a little bit of intention and control around what your outcomes are.
Yeah. But I also think that it's really important that people understand that, oh, I don't want to be a professional grappler. Well, all right, but is that you being realistic, or is that you coping with the fact that you don't actually like the discomfort of trying to improve? Because it's not just going to happen. Keep showing up is the worst advice you could possibly have, because all you're going to do is keep paying the bills and not actually necessarily get any better. And do you want to be everyone's rest round 6 years' time? No one's ego wants to take that. So instead of pretending to yourself that, you can tell you that you can cope by going, oh, well, I'm not trying to compete. All right, well, why are you here then? Like, what's the point? If getting better at this sport or this whole thing isn't the reason you're here, then do something else, because there's no point being here if you don't want to improve. It's just a waste of everyone's time, because everyone actually wants to improve. Like, egotistically, no one wants to do this sport and never get any better. So don't cope, give yourself a little bit of salve on your ego and go, oh, well, I don't want to be a pro grappler, so I'm not going to think about my sessions. All right, well, maybe you just don't like it because you're 7 and you can't get off your phone at 4 a.m. and you've got no self-control. Like, just practice some habits. Like, oh, think about my session. It takes a minute. It's not even hard. And I think
most of us don't want to be pro grapplers. Most of us don't want to be pro grapplers.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'd like to be that good at it, but I couldn't give a shit. Fundamentally, the difference between the majority of us and being pro, obviously, is some general ability, but it's just not caring enough.
Pro grappler, you train. You train, you compete, and you make a living teaching, which is fine. But you're not a pro.
I love this sport more than things that I should, really, but. If I train more than 4 days a week, I fucking hate it. I'm just like, I'm sick of it. I don't want someone. I can't be asked people touching me. Everything hurts. Like, just fuck off for 48 hours. And I think, like you said, there's this confusion of like, well, you're either super dedicated and want to be a professional, or I'm just going to turn up and hope for the best. And it's like, no, there can be a middle ground where you can still get so much fulfillment out of it and still get better.
Yeah. Definitely. And it doesn't take that, as Ed said quite a few times, it can be absolutely minimal. But I just think so many people will just give this excuse rather than do anything that feels different.
I feel like it's quite unique to jiu-jitsu as well. Like, you look at how popular things like high rocks is and paddle. I've mentioned paddle before, and I say it's not a sport. But people, it's a hobby for those people, and they take it, they work hard, they take it seriously, and it's want to progress. People running marathons, I want to get better at it, but in jiu-jitsu, it's like, oh, I'm all right, just rocking up every week.
It's mad.
I don't know where that's come from, in our sport, where we can just feel like, we can just rock up and that'll be all right. But no, let's have some intention in what we're actually doing. I feel like we're so backwards and behind compared to other sports, even just other little hobbies that have popped up in the last few years.
Do you think it is coaching structure? Because in those the two that you've mentioned, you could go and hire a coach, but most people who take up running don't necessarily hire a running coach unless they hit a bottleneck and they want to work with someone, and then they do.
Yeah.
Whereas in our sport, I think a lot of people assume they can just turn up because you've got a coach built in. You've got the instructor, the person who runs the session. So there's this assumption that if I just come along and just listen and do what they say, I'm going to get better. And at first it works, but then it's why we've been banging the drum for CLA and representative coaching and actually being good at coaching. The problem that you have is there's a lot of people there who are teaching stuff who, it's just the move of the day. You're going to get blown out of the water by someone who's actually thinking about how to get better.
Yeah.
It's really difficult, isn't it? And it's a really good point about the high rocks stuff, because it's quite clear evidence that people do genuinely want to improve at things.
Yeah, you've got to figure it out.
Yeah, whether it's high rocks or whether it's Iron Men or whatever it is, it's I've got a mate, I'll give him a fucking shout out because he deserves a shout out. So I've got a mate who's just completed the Montaigne Spine race.
Nice.
Which is 268 miles, I think. And he doesn't make money from it. I mean, he's a fucking lunatic, but he doesn't, he's chosen to do that. And obviously that's a rare example because, most people aren't that fucking psychotic. But I think, like you said, high rocks is a fantastic. There's real examples of sports across the board where guys or girls as well, improvement's a real part of it. You can still improve at stuff and still enjoy it. Whether it's fucking paddle. I've got mates that play paddle, so I'm being careful of what I say. But just because they're playing and enjoying themselves doesn't mean. I've got mates that play it and they're like, oh, I fucking battered him at the weekend. Like they love it. Like they're really in. Like, I'm just like, all right, man. I don't want me to tell you, but like it's real evidence that you can still enjoy it and give a shit about getting better at it.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's a coping mechanism for a lot of people to avoid discomfort or avoid taking on responsibility or avoid. Like coming from teaching, I just see it as that same thing that sort of 16-year-olds do, where they're like, oh, well, if I just don't try hard, then it doesn't matter anyway. And like, it's such an easy, oh, I don't even want a GCSE. Oh, I don't even care about these A-levels. Like, you do, because you're having a fucking whinge like a 9-year-old. Like, you can choose to do something about it, or you can choose not to. And I think that people lull themselves into a false sense of security that they're not choosing, rather than realizing that's no use to them. But,
I
think you are right.
Yeah.
Like once you start training with intention, you ultimately then are held accountable to your own progress. And like, you are 100% right. It is uncomfortable when, okay, if you put this work in and you don't make progress, it's like you fear the failure. And when I think people might need to frame it differently. Like, it's not failure. Like you've put the work in. Like that's what you should be doing. Yes, it's not gone the way you want. Stop it. Yes, it's not gone the way you want it to, but like you've done the right things. Like I respect the guy who's put the work in for 5 or 6 years, maybe not got to where he wants to get to, but he's shown that he's shown everybody that look, he's somebody who's
I always say that I say to lads when they compete, and I always say like, failure is only failure if you don't learn anything from it. Like if you don't, it's only fail. The only way you're failing is you just point blank ignore that it happened or it exists. You know what I mean? Like Dave said, it's that. Yeah, it's like that 16-year-old mentality of just like, well, I don't even care. So and it's just like, well, in that context, you are failing because you've not got the fucking bollocks to hold the accountability to yourself in terms of like, yeah, it's uncomfortable. It's not nice. I actually remember you posting something about this, Ed, a while ago about like after competitions, like dealing with that difficulty of like, well, I've not got what I wanted out of it. And that's part of being you're a fucking adult. Do you know what I mean? Like take responsibility of, it's not nice. No one likes getting beat. It's hot. Like, I still lie in bed at night sometimes replaying fucking matches that I've lost. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not nice, but you've got to take, that's part of, you've got to, again, proper, I love this quote, and it's everyone always rolls their eyes when I say this, but like, there's one of my favourite, one of my coaching heroes, he always says like, in order to win, you've got to risk losing. And like, you have to be willing to go, like you said, like you respect the man who's like, do you know what? I'm going to put all the effort in I can. And if it doesn't work out, that's okay. Because I've got better and the process is what I've committed to. And that I think is like, it's uncomfortable for a lot of people, whether it's not, it doesn't necessarily have to be competition, but it's willing to go, do you know what? I'm actually going to put a lot of effort in and I'm going to give myself 12 months. And at the end of that 12 months, I'm going to see what does that look like? How am I a better grappler or a better whatever it is, like fucking hell, like better person or stronger, more robust, more capable, fitter, whatever terminology you want to use relative to the goal. It just to put your not your life. What's the fucking word I'm looking for? Anyway, it doesn't matter. But like just to commit to something, commit to it.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people, it's easier to like you were saying about not winning. I think that's where the classic, or like we joke about it, me and my guys that I work with, where I think it was Steve would always laugh when people go, oh, it wasn't my day. And he was like, well, what about when you win? You just meant to go, oh, it was my day. So like our running joke is whenever Steve wins something, we just message him and go, oh, it's just your day, mate. It's just nothing to do with the training, nothing to do with the hard work, nothing. It was just your day. That's what it was. You just made good decisions today. And it's like, I think it as soon as you turn it on its head, a lot of that stuff doesn't work. It's like no one who wins gold medal goes, oh well, I won against the first round knockout. Whereas if you get knocked out in the first round, you're like, oh well, I lost to the eventual gold medalist. Okay, well, so what? That doesn't mean anything. That's just you coping with the fact that you sucked. And it's hard and it is uncomfortable, but you can take that feeling and use it to make yourself better. Or you can just, again, be a 16-year-old and put some salve on the wound and go, oh no, I lost the eventual winner. And like everyone else, someone had to. Statistically speaking, it was going to happen.
Yeah, it is funny, isn't it? Like, and I know we're going well off track here, obviously, as we're coming to the end, but like, narrative's such an important thing. But I always think it's funny at comps, like, you get beat, like, say you lose by like 2 points, and you get really upset. But if you're in the gym, you wouldn't even. Yeah. Then what? It's 2 points. You got sweat. Like, it's not like you've had your head caved in. Like, it's whatever it is. You got took down or whatever. Like, it's. I'm saying that from a person who like has walked off the mat like fucking fuming, like getting beat by like 2 points. But it is funny, isn't it? Like how we reframe things, and part of that battle is that like psychological thing in terms of how do we perceive things, how do we view things, how things have gone, and to come back to the original point that we've been talking about in terms of this idea of finding quality. And one of the things with quality is like, how do you frame things? How do you reflect on how things have gone? And the narrative that you tell yourself within that is really, really important. It's like, you've not failed. It's just, you've just not necessarily achieved the thing that you wanted to achieve, but you've still got better along the way. And then essentially when we're looking at building quality into training, that's what it's about. It's being able to go, all right, well, it weren't perfect, but what was good about it? What was the thing that drove me to get better? Maybe I didn't achieve the eventual outcome of like, I wanted to get 10 armbar submissions in a session, whatever it is. I'm picking a random arbitrary thing, but like, I've still got 8. I've not failed, but it's still moving me forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's good to be able to, going back onto, I know you tried to bring it back. I'm going to take it back a step.
It's what we do every time, don't worry.
Yeah, it's what we do every time, mate.
When you go into competition, being able to being able to separate the competition outcome and like what you've achieved in the process, because sometimes you just lose, and there's no like oh, like you said, oh, I lost the bench winner, or it wasn't my day. Like, you just lost. There is no lesson like there is no like bigger, higher thing like to consider. Like, you just lost that day. But that's separate to everything that happened up until that point. Like, you've put the work in, you've rocked up to training multiple times a week, you've got fitter, you've got your weight down for some people. Like, that's important, and that's such a big thing. And I think when people it comes back to that fear of failure. People kind of conflate the two, and then they go, okay, right, I failed, so all that work is now gone to waste. Like, no, it's not. Like, that's the main thing that you need to focus on. Yeah, you lost. You just lost. That's fine. We all like, I've gone to the first round thinking, I feel great, I'm going to do well, and I've lost. I'm out in 2 minutes. I've driven 3 hours to competition, and I've gone out in 2 minutes. Like, that happens. But I've put the work in.
Of course, man.
That's the important thing. But you can go back. I just wanted to bring it back to that point.
No. It's good. It's good. I think it's, like you said, it's a really valuable thing that we all experience it, and it's just having that narrative to be able to go, do you know what? It's not the end of the world. I can deal with this. I can get over it, and I can use it. Like we said, reflection. We bang on about this all the time, and obviously I'm glad that obviously Ed is a big someone who advocates for this a lot. Is like, just how can you reflect on it? How can it make you better from it? It's like I said, failure is only failure if you don't learn something from it and you don't take something from it. It's like, we're all trying. Everyone's trying. Everyone that registers for a tournament is trying to get better. But like you said, only one person can win. So what are the other 10 people doing? Are they all failing, or are they using that to get better? Just don't be the sad bastard who's just like, oh, woe's me, like blah blah blah. And it's like
the other classic of I just want to say sorry to all my training partners and sorry to my coach.
Yeah,
they don't care. None of them care.
Yeah, they don't give a shit.
Unless they're dicks, they don't care that didn't go right for you. They still care about you. They still, like, they'll see you on Tuesday. It will be fine. Like, your coach doesn't think any less of you unless you like punch someone after the match, or like you swore at someone's kid, or like, it's fine. It's not as big a deal as you think it is for everyone else. But if you try and bypass that awkward feeling and make it go away, then you're not going to reflect on what went wrong. You're just going to go, oh, I feel okay now, dealt with.
Yeah.
If I did
the
a post
only
for
thing
saying sorry.
Yeah. The only thing your coach should ever care about is how can I help them not have that happen again? That's the only thing that your coach should care about.
Yeah.
It shouldn't matter what result you got. The only thing your coach should care about is how can I help you or whoever make that not happen again.
Yeah.
And if that means that,
know is what was your bottleneck? And if you can't tell them that, how are they supposed to work it out? Because they're not you.
Yeah.
Like, you might be able to see it externally if you're lucky, but maybe it was you were really nervous before the match and you've never dealt with. It's like the first competition. People go, oh, well, I didn't win. Like, well, maybe you're not a natural competitor. That's fine. They're rare.
Yeah.
Like, maybe you got to learn those skills.
Yeah. And next time, if you make a different mistake, but you improve on this last one, that's fine. That's the process.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. We should probably wrap it up because we've all got stuff to do, haven't we? But appreciate your time, Ed. Thank you very much for coming on, being our first guest on the podcast. It's a huge honour. Is there...
Where can people find you?
I was going to say, is there anything you want to plug?
It's my Instagram, _Jiu Jitsu Perform. Also been trying to push, back in the last year, I was trying to push YouTube a little bit more, but kind of got carried away and thought, I'll be able to put plenty of videos out. Can't. But there is quite a lot on there around some of the stuff we've spoken about and just my perspective on things. I think I will give credit to yourself, though, Andy, about I think you were the first one that I saw to kind of combine the skill and S&C side of things. So you're very much the inspiration behind Jiu Jitsu Perform. So I put that credit back onto you.
Oh, thank you, mate. I'll take that. Thank you very much. And I would like to say anyone who does follow Ed, Ed is every strength coach work's nightmare, because you log onto Instagram, you've had a great day, and what's Ed doing? Ed's doing ridiculous shit in his 15-minute lunch break. And everyone's just like, you motherfucker. Yeah.
Oh, it's not as much as I used to lift, but
yeah.
And he's doing it in the most outrageously wrong shoes you've ever seen.
If you want kids going on about the shoes, I can lift anything. I'm so comfortable. I've squatted over 200 kilos in slides once when I was
Everyone's just like, oh mate, I've just done 10 rounds, just doing a light 150 kilo bench today, just to keep me moving. Motherfucker.
I think that's me being harsh myself, just comparing myself to what I was like. Peak power.
It's that, and then also every so often when you compete, is it when you get like a default medal, they go in the bin?
Yeah, straight away.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah.
I remember seeing one where it just cut to, I was just like scrolling and watching people's stories, and then suddenly it's Ed going, well, we know where these are going, and it's just these medals fell in the bin. I was like,
if I'm losing, I'm very much big on look, you've got to share your losses as well as you.
100%. Man.
I'll be very open. I lost today. It was shit. I got a medal. Because I was 1 of 3. I was 1 of 3 in the bracket. It's going in the bin. Congrats to the on to the next one. No stuff.
That's awesome, because we all know someone who's like, oh yeah, I got bronze today. Like, yeah, and you lost every match.
So I'll get.
Anyway, right, boys.
Sorry,
No, man. The house has just come down as well.
It's good timing.
That's really good.
Right, boys. It's been a pleasure.
Good to chat, and I'll catch you guys very soon.
No. Yeah. Take it easy, brother. Right. See you later, gents.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.